Howdy, Immortalium here. Today we're going to be discussing, well, you know from the YouTube title, so no point dragging it out, Hot Gimmick. I did an unboxing of all the Vizbigs when I got them originally. This will be posted as a response to that video, so you'll be able to get to that if you're interested in looking at that. Having read all of this now, I'm prepared to offer an opinion. And it's... Okay, first of all, what is the story of Hot Gimmick? Basically, there's a family, called the Narita family, and it has a 16-year-old girl in it called Hatsumi. And she has a 14-year-old sister called Akane, and Akane one day, she says that she might be pregnant. And of course this shocks Hatsumi. Of course Hatsumi at this point is a virgin, so the idea that, Akane has had multiple sexual partners at that point is a bit shocking to Hatsumi. But Hatsumi, as a sister, says, I'm gonna go get you a pregnancy test. She's a bit embarrassed to be getting it, of course, what girl isn't, but she does that. And when she's returning, she comes across this guy called Ryoki Tachibana. And when Hatsumi was young, Ryoki pushed her down a flight of stairs, and ever since then she's been scared of him, understandably. But he spots that she has the pregnancy test. She accidentally lets it slip that it's for her sister, and because of the fact that, this is important as well, they're living in a corporate housing situation. What corporate housing basically is where a company has all their employees, well, not all their employees, but a lot of their employees living in a building. They have their own apartments and they have to pay a little rent, although quite low, I think. And basically the Tachibana family are, they're, I think, they're really high. The father of it is like an executive. So everyone has to submit to them, and a word from his wife or his son can, cause an employee to be fired. So understandably, they find this distressing. Hatsumi finds this distressing because Ryoki then says, maybe I'll tell my mother about this, that your 14-year-old sister already has to use pregnancy tests to find out if she's pregnant or not. Which, of course, Hatsumi says, please don't, I'll do anything. And of course, what does he say then? Will you be my slave? Now, the reason he says this is that he feels insecure about himself. He believes that at 16 that he should have had sex at some point. So he decides, I need to try this out with someone, and he wants it to be Hatsumi. Now, there's a friend of Hatsumi's that just returns at the beginning of the chapter called, not the beginning of the chapter, the end of the chapter, called Azusa, which is a childhood friend of hers and now a supermodel. He seems like a very nice character, but you find out later that there's a bit of stuff going on with him, he's not what he appears to be. So that's basically the premise of it. And it's an intense premise, quite original I think, but it is a very intense premise, so I can understand why it was viewed as controversial. Okay, first of all, how's the cast? Well, I think the cast is fantastic actually. You have, first of all, you have your lead character Hatsumi. Now, she is probably the weakest point among the cast, although she's still very likable. The issue that I have with her is there's a picture, I guess, from the first volume. And I guess it was a bit presumptuous, but from the way she looks there, I'll just show you. She kind of looks like one of those girls that might be kind of rebellious and kind of, willing to stick up for herself. But you actually find out when you're reading this that she's quite submissive, possibly due to the fact that, Ryoki did that to her and all that when she was young. So that makes her a bit weak, I guess, in comparison. Although she's still likable. She has, she's constantly thinking about, you know, relationships and how she can help her family. She cares about her family. She cares about everyone. She doesn't seem like she says at several points she hates Ryoki, but you kind of tell that she doesn't really hate him. You know, she doesn't seem to be capable of hate, and that's a nice character, even if it's a bit, you know, weak, I guess. Weak, you know, she's not unable to stand up for herself. Then you have Ryoki, who is quite aggressive, I might say, a bit dominating, which can be uncomfortable. He actually smacks her around a bit. But you kind of start understanding his character, I guess. After a while, you start to understand why he really wants to do this, why it is with Hatsumi, you know, why he has become this kind of person, etc., etc. You have Azusa, which, as I said before, is quite a deceiving character. You don't actually, you know, you start reading the story and you think he's a type of character, but then he turns out to be another type of character, and there's all this conspiracy involved around him and all that. And that hasn't even gotten to Akane, which is Hatsumi's sister. Now, she sleeps around a bit at the beginning of the story, but later she kind of starts, you know, having a steady relationship with someone else. And she's actually very sweet there and very nice, and it's actually really, like, there's some chapters that are entirely devoted to her and that guy, which I think is a very nice change of pace. You know, it allows you to kind of relax, see a more kind of normal relationship, etc., etc. So that's very nice. And then of course you have Subaru, who's an otaku guy, and of course I love seeing anime or manga characters that are otaku, you know. So that reminds me I need to get Genshiken at some point. But point is, it has a great cast of characters, and I really enjoy them. Even if it can be uncomfortable sometimes, as I said, with Ryoki and Hatsumi's relationship. When it comes to the art, first of all, if you've seen my previous VisBig unboxing thing, what it actually is while most of VisBig's, you know, they have their color pages in color, as far as I can tell, it's only the illustrations, you know, like the chapter openings, like this is the illustration for chapter 1. First one, that's in color, but then you go the next, and I don't think, yeah, as far as I can tell, there doesn't seem to actually be any monochrome color pages. Maybe that's why there's no color pages. I might be wrong on that, and you're free to correct me on that, but, you know, but it's still nice to see the illustrations in color, you know, that's a good selling point. Plus it's in a bigger trim size and all that jazz, so that's nice. So when it comes to the art, I really like the art overall, but there is one thing I do want to point out, and that is when it comes to the way that Miki Aihara does the character's eyes, she does it with a kind of straight line at the bottom and then a curve around the top. So if I can get you an example of where it can look a bit unusual, like if you take a look at these pages here, actually it works quite well artistically. There's a nice level of detail. It's a very nice looking bit of art overall. But there's some points where you're looking at a character from the side where it looks a bit unusual. Now I noticed that as the story progresses, but I think by volume 3 it's kind of been ironed out. It's obviously she was conscious of that as she was drawing this. Like here, Ryoki looks a little odd there. If you can see, he doesn't look like himself there. A slight distortion, but and by the rest of the page, like it looks normal and it looks gorgeous most of the time. And as I said, it's ironed out. So if you can get through the first 3 volumes, then you know it kind of just sorts itself out. Another thing that I must admit, I must have seen other manga before because I have heard of the technique, but this is the first time I've actually taken note of it. Is that she uses the real backgrounds and then kind of imposes characters into them, while of course kind of blanking it out. So you might see some like real people's faces, but you can't recognize them because like it's mostly black and all that. Like it works. When how can I describe this now without making it sound okay? When it's by itself, it just seems to me lazy. So that can be an issue. But when a character is put in, it actually works really well. It can actually look gorgeous at points. So I think it can work in cases, a case-by-case situation. Overall, it's not too distracting. I guess it was a bit new to me, so I wasn't used to it. But overall, artistically, I really like it. So from a story perspective, I've given you a rundown on the first chapter. Now there's more to it than that. It isn't just Hatsumi getting abused by Ryoki throughout all. Actually, just to point out, just in case you're wondering, she doesn't actually. I wonder how much of a spoiler it is. Like, it always comes out into situations where he doesn't actually have sex with her. So just be aware of that. It isn't like he's raping her throughout it all. So just relax with that. It's not a rape manga, although it borders on it sometimes. Yeah, and there's more to it than that as well. There's all this kind of, as I said before, there's conspiracy. Azusa comes back, and suddenly you kind of start wondering, who is this character? What's the issue and all that? And you start finding out about all these other characters, and there's all this stuff happening. And the corporate housing thing actually is quite fascinating. So I enjoyed that. Finding out about that. Although, as I said before, it's uncomfortable. I always hate it when characters have to be submissive to someone else simply because of the fact that they're in a position of power, like the Tachibana family, who then have the power to, fire people at will, on a whim. So that can be uncomfortable, and it is a tough manga, don't get me wrong. Like, this isn't a manga that you can enjoy throughout entirely. There are several situations where I found myself quite uncomfortable with the content being shown to me. But never enough to actually turn me away from the manga. The story is really good, and the art style, as I said, is very good, except for one of those, that quibble I had. But it's sorted out later. Visbigs wise, definitely get into Visbig. It's bigger trim size, which allows the art to really come into its own. You have the color illustrations and all that jazz, so it's really nice. So overall, I really did enjoy reading this, and the ending, I guess, is another thing I might want to just point out. The ending wasn't too. I know it was kind of controversial, the ending, and it's to the point actually where the final book. There is a preview for a novel called Hot Gimmick S, which actually redoes the ending. Now it's a novel, with words. Although it has the illustrations that are associated with light novels, which I definitely am interested in getting, actually. I wonder, is it still in print? But the ending, to me, I found it satisfactory, I guess. I mean, it is a bit uncomfortable in a sense, but and to some characters, some characters are nice, and the bad stuff, kind of ends up happening to them. But overall, I was satisfied with it. It's not like I hated the ending or anything. It just, I guess it's a bit of a sad ending in a sense, and a happy ending in a sense. Actually, there's a bonus chapter as well, right after the final chapter, which goes into more on Akane. It kind of finishes off her storyline, which is nice, because I was wondering to myself when I was reading the last chapter, aren't we going to see more of Akane? And then we do, which is nice. So overall, highly recommended. If I had to rate this, was it the Manga to Complete Guide? I think gave this a 4 out of 4. I wouldn't go 4 out of 4. I'd probably go 3.5 out of 4, simply because at points it is a bit uncomfortable. The art isn't perfect, and Hatsumi herself, while sweet and nice and a very likable character, is a bit too submissive for my tastes. It is a fantastic manga still, and I'd highly recommend it, particularly for those of you who have yet to give shoujo a try. This is, some people say that shoujo is a very kind of perfect world quite often, and some of them I have read, they do seem kind of perfect, but this is by no means a perfect world. This is a corrupt world that, can sicken you at points, and at points it almost feels like a seinen manga. So just because it's shoujo and it's from Shoujo Beat, don't skip this. This is a good manga. I really enjoyed it, and I really liked it. I can't recommend it enough, really, I guess. Just that little quibbles. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye-bye.